But you see, that's that's actually, as it were, my job.
Yep.
Okay, that's what makes what I'm doing here different than being a teacher or a psychologist. That I'm much more like a cheerleader. And what the cheerleader does is that when the let us say one of the members of the team fluffs the ball, the cheerleaders laugh and point it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, um, that's part of the good cheer. Is because if we can become cheerful about seeing the things that we don't like even in ourselves, and this is where we got started, was number one, uh, uh, winter is bad. And then we came from, no, it's not winter is bad, is that uh, cold. But cold is not suffering either. That is not cold, it's that I don't like cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday, here you are, you don't like hot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there is a kind of determination that can be made about this. So that whenever you check on the temperature at whatever level it is, your mentality now is that's good, that's fine. I recognize that it's cool, but I like it. Or I recognize that it's hot and I like it.
I I did that yesterday. Um, but most of the time, um, the hindrance just kept coming back. Um,
Yes, and never
and
mind, start again.
yep, it was yeah,
It
except
works. Here's the thing now. If in fact the change of attitude does work once, and then it works again, and then it works again, why isn't it later that when it works, now it it doesn't work because it keeps working? I'm confused here.
wait, say that again.
Okay. Sati, are waking up and changing your mind, changing your attitude, it works.
Yeah,
It gets hot, you see the heat, and then you recognize the heat's the dukkha in the mind. Never mind, let's start again. We cheer up,
yeah,
we gladden up, then we do it a third time, and then a fourth time.
yeah.
But then something happens, and now when we cheer up and it works, now we don't like it because it keeps working.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I think I know what you
Because
mean.
it keeps coming back, is what you said. It keeps coming back. It's
Yeah,
on and on and on.
I think I think maybe I was still I wasn't fully getting rid of it when it came, or I wasn't fully being okay with it when it came. I mean, that has to be the reason,
Actually, you're not drawing a distinction that needs to be made.
right?
And that is that, in fact, you were able to get the hindrance out, the hindrance of not liking it in this moment. But there is the underlying fetter also, which is in fact the number fourth fetter of
Right.
learning to stop. And in fact, most everyone, when they think about it, they think of it in a really big way, is of being angry and yelling, making noise, correcting a child, spanking a child, doing things like that that shows great ill will. But here you are in a mental way spanking the weather.
Yeah.
that you're angry and you're in that kind of parent ego state of the rules are that you should have whether I like.
So the hindrance, you can stop the hindrance, but if the fetter's still there, then that can still get in the way.
If the weather is still hot, then that means that we have let us call it going to the gym and pumping iron of the mind. Now's the time we got to pump iron. What does pump mean? That means every time that hindrance comes up, we've got to pump a little iron. We've got to take that right effort. We got to throw it out again and again. Now here's the point. Every time that you do throw it out, you have relief from it
Mm.
for a while. And if you don't throw it out, then you struggle with it during that time when in fact you could be free from it. So never mind that it comes back, you can just throw it out again. In fact, generally, the more often you throw it out, the longer it remains out before it comes back.
Um, let's see. Yesterday, that did happen towards, like, during maybe, say, the first the first 2/3 of the day. And then come evening time, I think it's because I was tired, actually.
That's when the hindrances come, isn't it?
Yeah. And then it wasn't just the disliking the heat, it was also the hindrances of wanting to indulge in sensual desire for other things, because there was some sort of feeling that, eating some cake or just relaxing and watching TV or that kind of stuff is going to make me feel better. But I knew that wasn't the case, but I still felt the hindrance, right? And I kind of noticed that. I was like, whoa, like all these hindrances are coming now, you know?
Uh-huh.
And it was
Well,
quite interesting.
let's track that for a moment. Just for a second, let's look at it. So you don't like the heat, and then you saw the heat as a problem, and so now you've got a problem to solve. How can I escape from this heat?
Yeah,
Okay. Did you
wanted to
actually
escape
have
the
the idea
hindrance.
that you can escape from it by taking a cold shower?
Yeah.
Because that will. That's the common thing to do in Thailand. Thailand's always been a place that had a lot of water.
Mm.
And so a lot of it has to do with their religion and ceremonies and whatnot. But the outcome of it is that people are expected to take 3 or 4 baths a day in hot weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's a good way of keeping cool.
Yeah, it works. But everything that else that you were doing was not working
Yeah.
because you really were not working at the level of the heat. You were working at the level of how can I make myself feel good?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thoughts were all about, and this is something I've noticed over the last few days as well, and it's just all about the feelings and wanting to feel better. Um, and that really that really um uh what's the word I'm thinking of? That the feelings were very the wanting to feel better was very potent yesterday. It was all like a deep kind of, oh, I want to feel good, I want to feel better. Oh, I don't want
I
to not
want,
feel, no, I don't
I
want to feel
want,
bad.
I want, I want,
Yeah,
I want, I want. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Tanha, tanha. I thirst. I'm hungry. I want something.
Yeah.
And it's a bit ignorant to be in that state, because if we could wise up to it, to wake up to that, we could see that, wow, that real dukkha. That's the real stuff there. That
Mm.
wanting. In fact, um, wanting something that we don't have is one of the definitions, actually, of formal definitions of dukkha,
Mm.
which is in a number of the sutras. And so it kind of follows a three-stage formula. And that is old age, sickness, and death. Nailed it. Okay, that's the really huge, big stuff.
Yep.
Okay, and then they give the expression of that as lamentation, crying, despair, um, and then the third stage comes in the underlying part. And the first one is on there is wanting things that we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next one is putting up with things that we don't want to put up with.
Mm.
Also, dukkha is known to be defined as difficult to endure.
Yeah.
Okay. But in fact, you did endure the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your body did it. I mean, you did that was
Still
kind of
alive.
nothing compared to the endurance that you could do,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
true.
was difficult to endure because you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Not that you couldn't endure it.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely didn't like it.
Okay. Well, you can see how now that Paticca Samuppada actually is beginning to work in real life for you. That it's that
Yeah.
feeling of liking and not liking that drives our desire, because you already have constructed a mental image of cold as something to not be liked. Okay? There is another way of looking at cold. In other words, we can, in fact, salayatana our way into it, or we can create our mental conception of cold that includes exhilaration and other attributes, to where we begin to really like it, including the point that it's if it has to do with endurance, then that will challenge me so that I know that I can endure it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I
Now, go ahead.
well, so I mean it makes a lot of sense. Um, it's I think this is one of these habits, one of these deeply learned habits that I've had for so long, which
Absolutely. I was about to get into it. That's just at a deeper layer of Sankara. You can add a new layer of Sankara that's wiser and more wholesome in there, so that when you dig stuff out of the Sankara to create your, let us call it, image of coal, or your understanding of coal, it comes up not with, oh no, it's hard to endure and I don't like it,
yeah,
which was learned behavior. You learned how to do that from other people who didn't like the cold.
yeah,
If you had been raised around the kind of people, I think they call them polar bears, but they're people who will go skinny dipping in places where they have to dig the snow and the ice out of the way so that they can jump in.
whoa,
or cold plunge or cold dips or the part of it of the endurance.
Yeah.
Okay? And they like it. And because they like it, they do it. And because they do it, they get used to it. Because they get used to it, they feel really strong and comfortable about it. They can trudge through the snow, no problem.
That's crazy.
No, it is not. It's your attitude.
My attitude
And
is
you can,
crazy.
yeah. Now I'm understanding what you mean by crazy. Right. When you attach your attitude about I don't like cold and therefore I feel bad when I am cold, that's in fact um, magical thinking.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And it's not only that, but it's crazy in the sense of it's ridiculous when it's compared to the fact that you can have the attitude that you want to have about things. And one of the attitudes about it that the Buddha actually talked about and did things about and gave instructions about was to get the monks into the position that they were okay with wide varieties of temperatures.
Oh,
That's part of the being a lion. In
okay.
fact, he did sit in cold weather with the double sangati and the regular robe and the normal stuff, and he said, "This is enough." Now he was in India at the time, and so there is a photo that I can send to you that shows two Sri Lankan monks, a Lao monk and a Thai ordained Westerner.
Right.
The Sri Lankans are covered from head to foot with big hats, great big coats. You can see the remnants of their robes below, and then in shoes.
Right.
All right, they're cold. This is
Yeah.
middle of the winter in Rhode Island, I'm sure. Okay, and the Lao monk, I think he's got a hat on and he's got sandals, but he's got socks on. And then
And
the
nothing
Thai monk,
else.
and
No
nothing
jacket.
else. That's it. And the Thai monk is in regular robes, no hat, barefoot in sandals, standing with the rest of them, all there for a photograph while there's snow in the distance behind. It hadn't completely melted.
Whoa.
Okay, so you can think what's going on here. Now, um, this is actually quite an issue that because if one is going to live in a, let us say, a rough environment, we
Yep.
learn to get a little roughness.
Yep.
But that roughness does not have to do with endurance that we don't like, but it's in fact endurance that we do like because we are in the process of training the mind to handle anything. We got to handle so many things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so being ready for um, not necessarily danger, because cold generally is not dangerous. It can be, but we got to use some wisdom in here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are some things that we would do to make sure that we're not dangerous, but there's a lot of distance between there.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That if you're on the side of a mountain and it's cold blizzard weather and you have no matches, it doesn't matter much how you're dressed.
Yeah.
Without an axe to build some shelter or something. Okay. So cold can be dangerous. But since we're not in that state now, that in fact you probably have not been without away more than 5 minutes away from a building. any time that you've been cold.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, and so it's not dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It's merely that you don't like it, and you don't like it because that's the kind of memory systems that we create our present moment from.
Mm.
But we can add some new ideas in there so that we can create a new moment. So the next time that you have weather, you can say, "Hot diggity dog, this is a good time to practice. Let me see if I can enjoy this hot weather."
Yeah, I need to do more of that. It felt like I tried it yesterday, but it was yeah, it just felt like a very uphill battle. Um, but I
May
didn't.
your uphill battle be the right effort.
Well, I don't think I was. I was thinking about it in an sort of, I will endure this kind of way, um, or like thinking of it as kind of a challenge or something. I I was just thinking, oh, I should be feeling good right now, and and even though I did, it just came back the not so good feelings.
Uh-huh. So, um, so you allowed yourself to become the victim again,
Yep,
okay? But you didn't see this as a challenge.
yep.
So now we're adding this challenge aspect to it. Yeah, and this, by the way, the word challenge is yours. I would use a different word. I would use to become determined, but
Hmm.
challenge works.
Okay.
Okay. Why? Because what is a winner anyway? A winner is the guy who can meet the challenge.
Yep.
Okay. If you can't meet the challenge, then you don't really deserve the winning anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And so everything about it has to do with with attitude. And so don't get caught on the side of a mountain needing good attitude when you don't even have it when you're in town.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some of that mental pumping iron and say, yeah, I can handle this cold. Yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to get me down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something. It's definitely a habit that I can change. Um, yeah, it is. It just every time thinking about it, it feels like a couple steps up from the normal habits that I'm changing. You know what I mean? Um,
Well, that we're going deeper into it. In fact, you and I have spent quite a lot of time talking about the first three fetters.
mhm.
All right, this is number four. You would expect me to go right into it, and here we are. You presented it to me. You come dragging this dirty goat in the hand. Let's scrub it down and clean it up and take a good look at it and see what we've got here.
Yeah.
This is our ill will. So we're learning to manage our feelings, not just because we're sitting on a cushion or because it's in a list of things to do, but because it's really such a benefit in our life to be able to say, I can manage that. I can take care of that. That's not an issue anymore.
So then, breaking the fourth fetter. that would so that's ill will for all kind of things to do with the senses.
You didn't even have to add the end of it. It's just the
Ah,
ill will. That
and
fetter of ill will. We don't like it because at the bottom of it is an I am. This is, in fact, the deconstruction of the self. Is the deconstruction of the part of the self that goes around not liking things, like the weather. Remember, we were going to be friends with everything.
yeah,
Right?
what
Well,
happened to that?
well, here's the weather. It's your friend. He's here to challenge you. Can you handle this weather?
Yeah, you know, it's actually funny because most types of weather I'm completely content with, right? And everyone I know complains when it's rainy or when it's cloudy. They say, "Oh, it's such a miserable day," and I'm just like, "All right, cool." And I thought all this time, you know, I just thought, "Oh yeah, well, I guess I'm above all that." And then it gets a bit extreme, and even I'm kind of suffering from it. So that's you know, there's still a lot of things that need to be worked on, which you know, I didn't know. I didn't even think about.
Um, in Thailand, they have a different statue or a little Buddha Rupa that they display for each day of the week. Part of the superstition of what day of the week were you born on. And one of those statues is a reclining Buddha, but one of them is one that's quite remarkable because it's the Buddha sitting with being wrapped by coils of snakes, and the snakes' heads, actually seven of them, are then over the top of the Buddha's head. Have you ever seen that
Yeah,
statue?
that's in a lot of Indian things as well, isn't it? That kind of that seven-headed snake. I've seen it in a lot of Indian uh images and because my parents have various books
It's
and stuff.
very common in Thailand. Do you know anything about that?
No, no, I did when
Okay.
I was really young, but no.
All right. Well, actually, I bring it up because this has a whole lot to do with the fourth fetter. You see, um, actually, it comes from a sutta. It's in the Udana. I think it's this in number two, sutta number one, I think, where it's talking about that the kings of the snakes came to protect the Buddha at a time when it was, I guess, a dark and stormy night.
Right.
Okay, but the seven heads of the snake are actually a let us say a personification of the seven factors of enlightenment.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so with mindfulness and investigation and right effort, which is easygoing, and the joy that's there, we can sit here comfortably and abide the night. And we don't have to get into not liking what's going on.
Mm.
Okay, that this is the way of building. In fact, that's the whole quality of equanimity, which I think we've talked about it in the sense of sea legs. That the world is not a stable place.
Yeah,
Okay, and so if we're going to maintain our balance when the
need to be
level
grounded.
below us, then we need to have what's called sea legs of the mind so that we can handle whatever's going on. Well, how
Mm.
people don't handle it is because they get used to or accustomed it to being one way, and then it changes, and they're not ready for that change. And much of the not ready for it has to do with the fact that they liked and now they don't like the change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not necessarily anicca itself that is dukkha, but that anicca is resisted by the self that is created, but along with it comes the dukkha.
So initially you like the change.
No, initially you liked the weather and then it got hot or it got cold.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
And then
And so,
when you dislike it, that's when the self comes in.
and then the disliking comes up.
Oh, so the self comes first. Yeah,
Uh huh.
actually. Yeah, yeah, because it's
And
me who dislikes. Yeah.
well, the feeling itself, actually physiologically, the feeling is that this, according to the Buddha, the feeling comes first of
Ah,
not liking it, but it's already got a seed of the self there,
right.
and then going into dukkha is that I don't that it's I want it to be different.
Right.
And this happens almost instantly. We're talking about a process that happens within a second.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes from ooh the feeling into I don't like that feeling, which means I want to change it. And that's when the self is born of I don't like it. And that's when we become the hungry ghost. We're wanting things that we don't have.
Mm.
But if we have mindfulness and the rest of the factors, that snake that sits right above us here and keeps us protected.
Mm.
I'm not going to go there. Okay, so this is the reason why that statue is referred to, and you can think of that as you now are the one who is being protected by the great Naga, by the great snake. The,
Yeah, I think actually even in the Indian in the Hindu stuff, I think it's for protection as well, actually. Come to think of it. Yeah.
come to think of it. But here it's not protecting you from the cold, it's protecting you from you not liking the cold.
Yeah. That's
Okay, the
interesting.
lion or the attitude or the challenge. But you see,
Yeah.
you've got the secret snake in your pocket. And that's the seven factors of life. So it's actually not a snake, it's a naga. It's a big deal. You see those statues, it's not a little snake like this. No, this dude's
Yeah,
big
it's
dude.
huge.
And so um, that's the kind of protection. Big, big protection. Because you are uh, up to the challenge of the cold.
Yeah.
Now, when you recognize it with the cold, you can begin to recognize it with all kinds of things, like when the power goes out,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
or other surprises like that, or the car dies, or the internet goes out, or the laptop dies. All kinds of anicca will happen, and then we don't like it.
Yeah, and yeah, it's and there's all these levels to it. Um some things are going to feel way more intense and some things are going to be more manageable and
And
but
some
it's
of them are
all
going to be so small we don't pay much attention to them, and that's the ones that are most dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing that's
That's a really
amazing
good point.
about the ones that really grab us is it's actually fairly easy to see.
So that's why the higher fetters, it's because they're all more subtle. They kind of,
Yes.
they're sneaky. They're not all up in your face. So you really have to know, like, be aware of them.
Hmm.
And the lower fetters are kind of, well, they're more noticeable.
Yeah, exactly. And so the higher fetters, then the ones that they call the formless or the arupa ragas, uh, are actually right down there at the instinctual level.
Mm.
But now that we understand instincts the way that we do from Western psychology, by putting it into that, we can begin also, yes, we're going to learn to manage our instinctual nature.
Mm.
Okay. What is our instinctual nature? To become afraid, to have fear. What is our instinctual behavior is to try to own things and hold things so that they can be used for protection.
Protection. Yeah. For like, you think it's because you enjoy them, but it's more for security
Yeah,
that you
well,
want
if you
things.
enjoy them and then you don't have them, then you don't enjoy the moment without them.
Mm.
Okay, so in fact, our gadgets and our gazmos and all kinds of entertainment and whatever is for protection from our own restless, bored mind.
So speaking of that kind of stuff, for the past maybe 5 or so months, I've because I read in some suttas how the Buddha he praised renunciation. So I actually stopped spending time on things like YouTube or watching TV, um, because I used to do that a lot. Like all my free time would just be indulging in entertainment like that, and I haven't been doing it, um, except for maybe I think I've watched like 3 or 4 movies in the last 5 months. Um, and like no YouTube, no Reddit, none of that stuff really. And yeah, it's quite interesting because all that stuff it does it's you feel good when you're doing it, and then when you don't have it, there's all these, well, you feel bad when you don't have it, but then after a while it doesn't feel bad at all. It feels quite normal to not be watching YouTube all the time or not be watching movies or TV all the time. Um, yeah, no, it's quite interesting.
This is actually um, an, a, a new or interesting way of looking at the Buddhist concept of anicca. Is that when things change,
Oh
we don't
yeah,
like it so much. It means we got to adapt or do something new.
yeah.
This is why we actually have, as let us say, a natural progression along the path is to build up this enthusiasm for the path,
Hmm.
the eagerness for practicing the Dhamma, the uh, determination that we're going to be able to get the mind cleaned out.
Mm.
And that determination actually, when mixed with joy, um, builds a really strong can do attitude. that we really can get this thing straightened out. We can fix this. And
Determination
so
and joy. I think
that
I was saying I think the determination part, I'm very determined. Um, it's just cultivating joy doesn't always happen. It's quite hit and miss.
well,
Um,
never
yeah,
mind, start again. You have to remember that it really is okay for this to be a good moment, a joyful moment. You can be happy right now.
yeah,
It's almost like we need permission.
yeah.
We need permission to be a winner. We need permission somehow or another. I'm not up to the task.
I
We
remember
still
around a
want
month
some help.
ago, or like maybe 2 months ago, I gave myself permission, and then I was just feeling great all the time. And then, and now I'm thinking, why do I not feel that way anymore? I just feel very normal now. Um, yeah, it's weird. It's strange. And it's like if I could do it then, why
You can
is
do
it
it
not
again.
happening now?
It's not a matter of why isn't it happening now. It's I can do it again. Why isn't it happening now? Who are you asking why to? Who's this indelible ink mark on some scroll someplace that you're asking why to?
I don't know. Yeah, who am I asking why to? Just
Now, if you
myself, I
were going
guess.
to ask the question, why not? I know you'd be asking then.
Yeah,
Okay, so that why question is asked to some nebulous authority figure that is airy fairy in the back of the brain, and this is what Byrne refers to as the superego or the parent ego state. Okay, superego, you figure it out why. And when you give me an answer, then I'll go along with you. And it's almost like a gotcha question.
so that is quite a lot of magical thinking, and it's also a lot of doubtful thinking as well.
That's the
Um,
key word, doubt.
that's doubt.
It
Yeah,
goes right back to who can I get to fix me? That's who you're asking why to. Because in fact, you're not asking why doesn't it come? You're asking for him to give it to you. It's like
yeah,
when you ask mommy, why can't I have chocolate cake? You're asking mommy for chocolate cake.
uh huh,
And the mommy that you've created in the back of your brain says no chocolate cake now, ha ha. And all I'm saying is you can create a mommy in the back of yourself and says, sure, have some cake already, kid.
yeah,
We all have created that parent ego state that gives it operates the same way that we were trained as kids, and that is no, you've got to eat your broccoli before we give you chocolate cake.
mm,
And you're asking, why do I have to eat the broccoli? And you don't even know what the broccoli is. What do I
yeah.
have to do in order to feel good? Is what you're asking.
So
But you're
That's
asking it to an ego state that's not going to give you the right answer. But your wisdom, if you ask another part of your brain, in the sense of why not, then the answer is yes, I can.
so that's sort of related to what I've been thinking about for the last couple days, and that's the cause and effect, where the reason why you don't like doing, the reason why the mind is comfortable being stuck in hindrances is because it doesn't realize that that the hindrances cause, well, it doesn't realize the hindrances are dukkha, and it doesn't realize that they cause dukkha in the future. And when you come out of hindrances, the mind, well, it actually feels good now, and it feels good in the future. So that's so long as I can remember that, then it's actually quite easy.
You're touching on all the bases now. You're firing on all cylinders. That's right. You got to
Yeah,
remember this. And also, you have to be able to see that that stuff is hindrances. It is dukkha. That's the big issue. That's number one, first noble truth. We got to
yeah,
be able to see that that stuff is, in fact, dukkha. It is, in fact, actually, all we have to do is recognize for ourselves, yes, I am dissatisfied
yeah,
with this.
yeah, exactly. And then it's quite easy to change it. But so long as you don't realize that, it's quite
Mm-hmm.
difficult, because then you're thinking, well, why am I trying to change this? Um, but yeah, as soon as you realize, oh wait, this is suffering, then it's quite easy. Then when you realize coming out of it is great, then it's a lot easier. But sometimes I find that I get stuck in a sort of belief that coming out of it is difficult, and that kind of feels like it's going to create more suffering, which is the wrong view. But the right view is that it actually coming out of it feels good, and it's going to make me feel even better in the future.
Okay, exactly. Well, what you're describing there sounds like this, and that is that, okay, I can clean the mind out one time, and then I can clean it out again, and
Yep.
then I can clean it out again, but I still have this nagging suspicion that I can't. And then I
Yeah.
clean it out again, and then I say, see there, I told you it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
When we've already proven it to ourselves four, five, six times, no, it's actually easy to do.
Yeah.
But that when we say, aha, I told you it was going to be hard, that's the hindrance that's sneaking up from behind. That's like a rear guard attack.
Yeah. That's a
That's
very
just
sneaky
more
one.
hindrance. And so we have to be able to say, aha, I see you too.
Yeah. That's the ill will. Um, yeah. It's very sneaky.
Uh huh. So you prove yourself to be right by proving that you can't do it.
Yeah.
See, you are
And
a
that makes
loser.
it worse.
Uh huh. But what we need to do is we need to see that mechanism inside that, aha, I see you are a loser, and say, yes, but I see that as the hindrance.
Yeah.
That that's just another hindrance in there, just preventing you from being successful.
Yeah. It's yeah, that's a good one to that you pointed out, because it's been there for a long time. And even though I've experienced it, I've never pinpointed it.
Literally hundreds of thousands of years is right into the DNA. The DNA of the herd, to go along to get along, which means that we want someone else to be responsible, even if it's just a herd that's going to protect me.
Mm.
Because I feel unsecure and unsafe on my own.
Mm.
So we have to cultivate, no, I can feel safe and secure all on my own, and I don't need any help to do that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it now, and it seems like I I kind of fall back in that kind of belief where when it's good, I don't feel that way at all. Um, but then I fall back into hindrances like these. Um, but I don't catch them quick enough, and that's the thing, because if you catch them early, then
Yes.
they're a lot easier to deal with, and that involves being mindful, um, and the being mindful is sometimes it's great, and that's when everything is great, but sometimes it's not, and that's when things are not.
That's when we need to have that determination or that challenge
Mm.
or that uh, shraddha, that confidence. I'm up to it.
Mm.
Because in fact, we do not have to deal with any of it other than suffering through it when we're not mindful. That so don't discount or worry about the time when you are not mindful, but recognize how wonderful it is when you are mindful, that you can wake up, that we're not
Yeah.
going to wake up in a half-hearted or a half-assed way and to say, nah, 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 you can't
Mm-hmm.
really do this meditation. I see you, you know. No, we have to be able to to see the whole hindrance as a hindrance and say, yeah, and out you go, and I feel good.
Mm.
So that's full on waking up sati that has that effort in it so that we can really throw that stuff out.
Mm.
And we've talked about this before. So now you're seeing
Yep.
it as how it actually is working in your practice.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of the time there's well there's well all the time really there's a big part of me that's ready to go and do the practice, put in the effort, all that. But there's there's a another part of the mind which has resistance, and I mean, compared to months or years ago, it's a lot better now. Um, but that other part of the mind that resists is still there, and it's just kind of it's coaxing it to kind of get on board.
Okay? That's part of the right effort. Yes, to wake it up.
Mm.
I can do this. So that enthusiasm or that eagerness or uh, uh, willingness to meet the challenge, that when sati comes, wake all the way up. That's the
Mm.
challenge. Can you really come all the way out of it?
Mm. Oh, that reminds me. Actually, one thing that I've had for years is when there's when there's a lot of PT or energy, um, there'll be a kind of I'll get these weird kind of move. It feels like there's these weird movements in my brain, where like it's almost like something's shifted and some pressure's been released or something like a mild kind of popping sensation or something. And that happens when there's not a lot of it happens when even there's not a lot of pressure or a lot of tension. And it's something that I keep meaning to ask you about, but I always forget to ask you about. It doesn't really bother me, but it's just it's weird because I've not seen anyone mention it on forums or anything.
Bring it up again, but for right now, the way that I would say it is, imagine that it's something kind of like the effects of a faucet being turned on, or that you're actually being able to experience some of the stuff that's happening, um, physiological, that's going on in the mind. So you're beginning to wake up to some of that. And so when these faucets of chemical changes and whatnot occur, yeah, you can actually have some sort of sensational awareness of that.
They do feel good when it happens. Like after it happens, there's a sort of a relief, or or like a nice warmth kind of feeling. But sometimes it's mild, sometimes it's
Okay.
strong.
Well, I imagine that it's like you pushing the green button on the dopamine panel.
Huh. Yeah.
No.
All right.
Give yourself permission. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Turn that faucet. Blow that fuse. Chase out that hindrance that says, aha, you can't do this.
Mm.
I'll keep coming back. I'll keep coming back. I'll keep coming. You'll never get rid of me. And
Yeah.
that
I
thought used to
always
say,
think
aha,
that
I can see you, and out you go.
when I'm not in hindrance, I think like that all the time. That yeah, I'm not in hindrance. This is great. I can tackle anything. Sometimes even when I'm in hindrance, but sometimes when it's just a bit too much, that's when I forget that.
Never mind. Start again.
And I remember you saying that as well. And, your voice pops up in my head. Never mind, start again. And I'm like, all right then.
All right, Chintan. Well, this has been a delightful conversation, and
Yep.
Matt's waiting, so let me talk to him too, and we'll
Sure.
see you later.
See you, Dhammarato.
Okay. Enjoy the cold or the
Will
heat.
do.